What is going on, everyone? Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the KLX300, the 2021. I have just over 300 miles on it, so I'm just going to go over some things that have popped up to me in the first 300 miles and go over some things that maybe could be an issue, maybe not. So first off, I'll kind of start with the suspension. Suspension is really good. I mean, I'm coming off of a CRF 250L that I had upgraded the suspension, and it still was not that great. This suspension, as far as the rear, I've turned the preload up a little bit in the spring, but I haven't touched it other than that. The front suspension, the one thing I noticed is the dampening is a little harsh. If you're going at a pretty good clip down a dirt road like an ATV trail and you hit maybe a 2 or 3 inch high rock or root, it's a pretty harsh hit. It doesn't absorb it real well. Slow speed, you're fine, nice and plush, but that hard speed hit, it's definitely a little bit harsh. But I'm happy with it. I mean, compared to the WR250R that I used to have, the WR is better suspension, but this is real close, and it's much better than the CRF 250L. Another thing, on a couple forums, the KLX forums, these 2021s, the guys are noticing when the bike is running and you just off throttle, you get a split second of like a strange motor, like a little chirp, or like a very, like, it's hard to explain. Some guys have it recorded, but a lot of guys have said they have it on their bike. This bike has it too. I don't know if it's something with the emissions set up on it as far as in the head and the top end. I'm not concerned with it, but you do hear that like little tiny chirp every time you just come off a throttle. It's just a split second. That was one thing I noticed. Another thing I did on this bike, the brake pedal for me was too low. I had trouble finding it, and standing up, my foot had to go too far down and it was uncomfortable getting the brake on. So I came back to the clevis and adjusted this brake pedal up. You probably can't see on the camera, but I actually have a little piece of hose over top because mine is very, very close to the case here. I didn't want it to rub and vibrate. So now this is much better now that I have it adjusted up. This is much better for me. I like it a lot better. What else? The seat. I did a ride the other day. I was probably on the seat for, it was a 60-mile ride. The seat, it feels comfortable initially, but if you're going on long rides, I mean, I don't even think I have a bony ass. I have a little bit of meat on my ass, but this, after about 25 miles, I was starting to feel it, and by the end, I was definitely feeling it and trying to stand up a little bit to relieve my ass cheeks from this seat. So you want to keep that in mind if you're going to be doing any type of long rides. Another thing, as far as the shifting, some fellas on the forums are saying when they're in 6th gear, they shift into 6th gear, banging the gears, it will pop back into 5th gear, then they'll have to shift back up into 6th, and it'll stay there. I have not had that issue yet at any speed between 5th and 6th gear, but that is something that guys have been saying is a little bit of an issue. Now, one thing I have noticed on this bike, if you're, say, going 56 mile an hour, 50 or 60 miles an hour, and you're coming to a stop, you see a stop sign, if you don't downshift through the gears and get to 1st gear by the time you pull in the clutch and stop, like say you stay in 3rd or 4th and you come to the stop, then you got to shift down, it's very notchy and hard to get down to 1st gear or into neutral, say, if that's where you want to be. It's very easy when you're going down, it'll pop right through the gears, slowing down, no issues. But if you're rolling to a stop and you got the clutch in and you're trying to pop through all the gears to get down to neutral or 1st, it's definitely very notchy and very hard on this bike of mine to get down to that neutral if you don't just go through the gears as you slow down. So that's something you might want to think about. I haven't seen anything on any other forums where guys are saying that's an issue for them. Now my CRF 250L, it did the same thing. It was the same way. If you shifted down through the gears coming to a stop, it went fine. But if you stayed in the high gear, come to a stop and trying to get yourself down, it was definitely notchy and hard. And sometimes you had to let the clutch out a little bit to get it to catch and go into the next gear. And with the gearing, I'm still running the 1343 gearing on this bike. That's what I'm going to stay with. It's awesome in the woods for the slow stuff. I can cruise. The most I would want to cruise is about 65 miles per hour because you're at about 8,000 RPM, 7,500, 8,000 RPM area with the 1343. If I was going to cruise anything higher, I would throw the 14 tooth back on, and you could probably cruise 65, probably at about 6,500 to 7,000 RPMs. But I'm very happy with the 1343. That's what's been on it probably since I had 60 miles on the bike, and I'm now at about 330. So I'm very happy with that. I did do an oil change already, even though you're not supposed to do it until 600 miles. I did an oil change at about 150. The oil looked good, not a lot of metal in it, nothing like that. So I went ahead and changed it, got a fresh oil change, and I probably will do it again at 600, maybe just to be safe. But anyhow, I did do that. The motor on this 300, when you're lugging, this top end is very noisy. I guess you want to say maybe like a clank when you're chugging along a gear higher maybe than you should be. My WR and my CRF 250L, they didn't have that. Even I have the DRZ sitting there. It doesn't do that either. This motor definitely is a little noisy when you're lugging along and don't have it at a high RPM going down a trail. Not that that matters at all. It's just something that if you're not familiar with the bike and you hear that, you may think something is wrong with your motor. But I think it's perfectly fine with this bike. It doesn't bother me. It's just something that you want to keep in mind. I do have the Delcovic 14-inch oval pipe on this with the quiet core in it and the spark arrestor. And I've been running this I put that on, I probably have 50 miles on the bike, so I have close to, I'm at what, 150, 250, close to 300 miles with this pipe on. And I have a Tusk high flow air filter in here, and I have no fuel controller. I did a spark plug check. The spark plug is not burning excessively hot. It still looks good, has a good burn to it. So I'm not going to put a fuel controller on it. And from the research I've done with the O2 sensor on the pipe, the only time that O2 sensor, supposedly, this is not my knowledge, what I read, the only time that O2 sensor would possibly run the bike a little bit lean is right at idle or just a slight tick off of idle. Other than that, the O2 sensor compensates for what airflow you have in your fuel mixture. That's what they say. That's what I read. But my plug says to me that everything's okay. I get very, very little, not even a backfire. Sometimes you just get like a little poof every now and then, maybe on decel, but it's not like a constant like boom, 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 bang, bang. Nothing like that. And the plug looks good, so I'm going to keep running this Delcovic with the high flow air filter. It's just a slip on, still the regular head pipe. That's the way I'm going to keep running it and let everything go as far as that. Trying to think if there's anything else I missed here. The AMS tires. I'm running the AMS tires. These are the AMS Byte MX. Now I did a review on, I believe, the back tire on these. Possibly, I can't remember, but there's a review. But I had some guys that watched that review they're saying when they get on the AMS website, which I looked also, they don't say that these tires are DOT approved. But trust me, they have the DOT stamp on the side of the tire. So they are good to go. I have about 330 miles on this set. I put them on when the bike was brand new. They're doing great. I have no complaints. They're a little bit noisier than a 606 and a Trackmaster, and even the Tusk D Sport. These are definitely a little noisier, but as far as performance, they're doing well. I have no complaints on them. I'm going to kind of run these out and see what mileage I get out of them. Like I said, I have 330 on them now, and they don't even look like they've been used. So I'm happy with that. I mean, this bike, the only thing I don't like in this bike is the fact there is no fuel gauge. I wish they would have done that for 2021, but I will definitely upgrade this tank to a clear, larger tank as soon as I find time to do it or get it in the budget here. That will be done, and I will have a video on that. Oh, and of course, if you see here, I did myself a little old school helmet up here. See, these open face helmets, I grew up riding with those. That's what, if you want to be a better rider, you get yourself an open face. You go bashing through the woods with one of these, believe me, you're going to be more careful and make sure you want to stay up on your bike, because otherwise you fall off and you bust your teeth out and you bust your whole face up. And I also have, this is a moose rack back here that I have on. That's been doing well. I've used that plenty, strapping stuff down. I'm trying to think. I haven't had any issues with the bike where I've had to take it back to the dealer or anything like that. It's doing well. Always starts good, runs good, no hiccups. So I'll keep everybody in tune. I'll just probably keep doing videos like this maybe every few hundred miles or at 1,000 miles again. If I do any more projects to it, I will have those posted. So I appreciate everybody watching. Remember to like and subscribe. If you're watching this, hit the subscribe button. Even if you're never going to watch my shit again or you think I suck balls, just hit it. Just hit like, hit subscribe. I got the other bikes here. Probably be doing some more stuff with those. I'm trying to check my list here to make sure I didn't have anything here else that I wanted to tell you. I will say one thing too. When I brought this bike home new, I popped the air filter, top of the air filter box off. My air filter was not oiled. It was dry as a bone. So you may want to check that if you buy one of these. Pop that air box top off, and you may want to get some filter oil and put on there and get that thing oiled up, because mine was definitely bone dry, and I'm glad I looked at it when I did and got some oil on it. So there you go. Like, subscribe, get on your bike, get outside. Thanks for watching.